So WandaVision is finally over. The long and winding road of Disney Plus's first show has come to an end, and I have a ton of thoughts on it, so let's do it. Alright, WandaVision Season 1. I'm about to go over everything. I'm about to dive deep into this, so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, get out of here. Go! First, I'm going to give all of my positive thoughts. I'll discuss everything I liked for part of the video, then I'm going to go into all the stuff I didn't like and didn't make sense. Start off on a positive note, then end negative. So if you want to skip to my criticisms and hear all of the inconsistencies of the show, skip to this point in the video. And if you disagree with any of this, that's fine. I still love you. Whew! Alright, so I have quite a few negative things to say about this show, but overall, I did enjoy it. I thought the performances were top notch. Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Teyonah Parris, I think they absolutely killed it. This was hands down the best that Elizabeth Olsen has ever been in the MCU. She played every kind of emotion from happiness, sorrow, vulnerability, confusion, naivety, grief, instability. She really brought her A-game to this show, and she was believable as a sitcom wife, a mother, and a powerful superhuman. And I think Paul Bettany was even better in some scenes. He was excellent as Vision. He didn't get quite as much screen time as Wanda, but he nailed every scene he was in. He really brought a new dimension to Vision that he didn't have before, and for some reason, Paul Bettany is fantastic as a sitcom goofball. It's like he belongs there. But when Vision had to show emotion, when he started questioning Wanda, when he was trying to discover who he really is, it was very compelling. And them together as a couple was also great. I didn't think they got enough time to develop the relationship in past Marvel movies, so this was the most believable they've ever been together. Even though it was fake, they felt like a real couple for once. And the biggest surprise of the show for me was Teyonah Parris as Monica Rambeau. Yes, she is great. Her setup was nice. Coming back from the snap to realize that her mother was dead, that was really good. It's not played for laughs like in Far From Home. It's actually played in a realistic, terrifying way, so that was great. I think she was really good in the show, and I'm glad she'll be back in the future. She's a far better and more compelling character than Captain Marvel, so she should be Monica's sidekick in the next movie. I'll talk more about her and other characters in the negative portion of the video. But speaking of her, I think this show did diversity really well. I was worried that they would shove it in our faces, but they didn't. They had Monica be this great character, and it wasn't an emphasis that she was a black woman. She was just great. I didn't love Jimmy Woo like some people did, but he had a few funny lines, and he just so happened to be Korean. Wanda was a great and compelling main character, and it didn't matter that she was a she. They didn't smack us over the head with it like in Captain Marvel that women can kick ass too. Yeah. Men made fun of me my whole life. Well, now I'm blowing up spaceships while I'm just a girl by No Doubt plays. They had women and non-white characters just be good characters. That's how you do it. The other thing I really liked about this show was, for the first few episodes, it really felt like The Twilight Zone. It was a generic sitcom, but things were off. There were lines and camera shots that showed that everything wasn't as it seems. Characters would break character, there would suddenly be color added to the black and white, and it really built up a nice little mystery. For a couple of episodes. I am very glad that Marvel did something completely different for most of it. Taking two side characters and putting them in a sitcom together? Okay. Did it work completely? No, but it was different and they took some chances. It was a fun and interesting way of storytelling, and I hope they take more chances like this in the future. I also loved the way they implemented the commercials to represent traumas in Wanda's life. When it was revealed that the red beeping on the microwave was really the Stark missile that never went off, I was like, okay, that's cool. It was nice to see some of Wanda's backstory so we understand her as a character a little bit more. I really liked White Vision versus Vision. Their fight was interesting because they were evenly matched and they knew how to counter each other's blows. And the scene where Vision explains the rotting boat to him was even better. Vision is the best when he uses his intellect and robotic rationality to explain situations to people. His conversation with Ultron, him explaining oversight to the Avengers in Civil War. I love the deep-thinking, introspective Vision. I'm glad he won the battle with his mind instead of his body. I like Scarlet Witch's new costume. This is the costume she should have had 6 years ago, so that's good. Yeah, that's pretty much all of the things that I enjoyed in this show. There are quite a few things to like or love through the episodes, but when I analyze the final 2 episodes and think about the information they give us, I look back at the rest of the show in retrospect and it really falls short. Okay, let's get into this. It was Agatha all along. No it wasn't. Whew, where do I even start? Okay, they tried to reveal that it was Agatha all along behind what's been happening. They reveal that she's been pulling the strings the whole time. It's this big reveal. They show her controlling Pietro and using a spell on Wanda's neighbor. But she wasn't behind anything. She admits in the next episode, and it's established, that Wanda created the Hex and the alternate reality they live in, and that's what drew Agatha to it. She keeps asking Wanda, how did you do it? How did you do it? How are you doing this? So, it wasn't Agatha. She was just a part of the whole thing so that she could figure out how Wanda was doing it. It was Wanda all along. They just did that reveal for shock value at the end of episode 7. And that's the problem with the Pietro reveal. I'm sorry, Ralph Bohner. Let's take a second and talk about Ralph Bohner. Okay, so let me tell you why this was a worse bait and switch than the Mandarin. In Iron Man 3, it made sense that Killian would have a fake Mandarin playing the figurehead of all of these terrorist attacks so that it couldn't be traced back to him. They had a face to the evil, and nobody thought it was Aldrich Killian. It was a smart villain plan. I don't like it, but in the context of the movie and how movies are constructed, it made sense. Ralph Bohner made no sense. They revealed him as Pietro purely as a shocking reveal, purely to elicit an emotional reaction from the audience. How can you blame people for having fan theories when you cast our Quicksilver as the other Quicksilver from another established universe, who most people say is the better Quicksilver, in a show where the main character has reality-bending powers? Yeah, that's gonna get some people excited. They deliberately casted him just to get the fans excited and talking, then they just reveal him as some loser named Ralph Bohner. That's a damn letdown and lazy bait and switch if I've ever seen one. And it's indicative of a bigger problem the show has. Now when we look back, why do we care that Quicksilver came back? He wasn't actually Pietro. Why should we get invested in Wanda's relationship with him or her kid's relationship with him if he's just Ralph Bohner? And I don't want to keep harping on it, but damn. They took one of the biggest reveals in television in the past 10 years and turned it into a dick joke. The climax of his character arc was him going, heh, Bohner. My lord. And I hate when people blame the fans for having expectations. Well, you shouldn't have built it up so much in your head. Of course you're gonna be disappointed. Guess what? People don't just pull expectations out of thin air. They don't just pull it out of their asses. The filmmakers give us the expectations. They create it. They deliberately casted an alternate universe Quicksilver in a reality-bending show simply to get people talking about the show. Then they turned him into a Bohner joke. That's a damn problem. But I'm tired of saying Bohner, so let's move on. In the end, Wanda has to say goodbye to Vision and her kids, but it loses all of its weight because there is a new Vision out there. Vision gave White Vision his memories and he flies away, so Vision is 100% coming back. And it was shown that she can just create Vision with her magic because she has a part of the Soul Stone still in her. She even tells him that he lives inside of her and they'll see each other again. So why in the hell should I care that he's disappearing? Yes, they had a nice bond in the show, but he's fake. He's not even the real Vision, plus she can just make him again, especially now that she's so powerful and learning new magic. And her kids, I didn't give a damn about them. She literally knew them for a week or two, and she didn't even get to see them grow up. Those tender moments of bathing them, seeing them take their first steps after months of crawling, giving them their first solid food, cleaning up their toys when they're toddlers. She got none of that. Those intimate moments that make you bond with your kids. They went from newborns to age 10 in 2 days. I don't feel the connection between them. And what are they? Wanda created the Hex, but did she create them? It was implied that she didn't because they were the only people in there that she couldn't control. They could age up whenever they wanted, and they gained superpowers out of nowhere. Are they real? Are they fake? She hears their voices in the after credits scene, so I guess they're real? I don't know, but it was confusing. I didn't care about their little family time for 4 episodes because they didn't feel like a real family. I didn't care when they were in danger. I didn't care when they were hanging out with Uncle Boner. It all rings so hollow now because the rules of the Hex weren't defined well enough. And I'm sorry, but Wanda is a villain. Maybe she was unwillingly doing it, but she was holding hundreds of people mentally hostage for weeks. They had her nightmares, they felt her pain, they were prisoners. They had families that they didn't get to see and children that they couldn't hold because they were in mental internment. So after that is revealed, how can I just forget about it and root for Wanda? Oh yeah, girl, beat Agnes and get a new costume. Hell yeah, you've just committed a crime that you should go to prison for a long time, but you go, girl. There was just a disconnect and messiness in the finale that wasn't well handled. Then all of those people just give Wanda a mean look and she gets to fly away in peace. But oh wait, she's not in peace. She's still grieving over Vision and her kids that I don't care about. So what did she learn? How did her character change or evolve at all? The whole show was just set up to make her the official Scarlet Witch for future movies. They wanted to act like this was a contained show away from the rest of the MCU. This was its own show, but it wasn't. It turns out that it's all set up. Wanda is set up for the Doctor Strange sequel. Vision flies away and is set up to come back. Monica gets her powers and is set up for Captain Marvel 2. Naturally setting things up for the future is not a bad thing, but it is so clear that that was their main objective in the finale. Where was the finality to the main story of Wanda and Vision? She lost him in that moment, but we the audience know that he could come back. She even says that he could come back. We have seen Vision die 3 times now, and he's still not done. And her kids are still out there, so she didn't actually lose them either. I'm starting to worry that maybe people are right, and the MCU will never have true stakes. Phil Coulson, Nick Fury, Loki 3 times, Groot, Gamora, Black Widow, Vision twice. I understand that comic books have people come back from the dead all the time, but comic books are a different medium than film and TV. These are real, live-action stories that take place in the real world. If 90% of the characters you kill come back at some point, I won't feel anything when the next character dies. Why should I believe it's real? What's the sadness of saying goodbye to Cap or Tony if they're gonna come back in 3 years? Why should I give a damn that she's losing Vision again? We know it's not permanent loss. Now, when I watch Infinity War again, it won't be as sad that she has to kill him because he comes back. It's phony emotion, and I hope they stop doing it so much in the future. But I regress. Let's get back to the main points. It was very disappointing that this cool Twilight Zone-esque sitcom show about Wanda's grief and pain turned into Wanda shooting energy balls at Agnes while Agnes screamed exposition. Seriously, Agnes was not a great villain. Catherine Hahn was pretty good for the whole show, but once it was revealed that she was an evil witch, all she did was float around and spit out exposition to Wanda. That is literally all she does.
Ooh, this is the Book of the Damned. Ooh, you're a witch. Ooh, this is a rune. Ooh, this is how I've done this. This is how I did this. Ooh, here is my plan to take your power. Ooh, this is what needs to blah, 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 blah.
All she does is talk. And come on, these are witches with hundreds of different spells and incantations and different methods of fighting, and they just shoot energy balls at each other the whole fight? Really? Are witches' only attacks energy beams and balls of energy? It was such a letdown. And no, not because Reed Richards or Magneto didn't show up, but because the characters and their conclusions in the show were clunky and mishandled. Wanda beats Agnes by placing protection runes on the Hex so that only she could use her powers. So they try to show us that she beat Agnes with her own technique. But she didn't teach her how to place runes. She just says, hey, these are runes. Don't you know about these? You should know about them. You're a witch. Wanda literally learns about spells and runes earlier that day. She has never heard of this stuff before, and later in the fight, she places 3 or 4 of them perfectly, but she never actually took the time to learn how to do them. She just does them, and it makes no sense. Why didn't Agnes place runes to protect herself? Oh yeah, she was too busy monologuing. Oh man. Monica was pushed to the side after she got her powers. Jimmy Woo was okay. Hayward was a generic bad guy, and I still can't stand Darcy. She was so annoying every time she opened her mouth. And when the Hex consumed her and she went, "Oh fudge," I wanted to punch the TV screen. She may be the worst character in the MCU. And for some reason, at the end of the finale, Monica tells Wanda, they have no idea what you're giving up for them. What? What in the hell are you talking about? She said goodbye to her fake fantasy husband and children so that hundreds of people could go on to see their real children. She owed them that. That was the least she could do after holding them against their will for weeks. Are you serious? Did the same people who wrote the first few episodes write this one? That may have been the dumbest line in the show, and I can't believe she said it. I expect that kind of bull out of Darcy, but you, Monica, you're better than that. And things just don't make sense when you take a closer look at all the episodes. Agnes was controlling Ralph, and she gave him super speed somehow. How did she imbue him with the exact powers of Pietro? I know she brainwashed him into thinking he was Pietro, but how did she give him blue super speed? Can she make anyone superpowered? Well, maybe it was just an illusion. Well, no, because Ralph uses his speed to hit Monica, so he really does have it. If that's the case, why didn't Agnes give powers to anybody else in the town to help her fight Wanda? And how dumb is Agnes? She has researched and studied magic for hundreds of years. She knows all about it and the prophecy of the Scarlet Witch. So why does it take so long for her to figure it out? She admitted that Wanda was emitting power that she's never seen before. She kept asking her how she was doing it with no training, and her magic powers are literally the color scarlet. Why did it take her so long to figure it out? Oh yeah, so that we can have that big reveal of her saying, you're the Scarlet Witch, which is something that we've already known for 6 years. My goodness! Once they started revealing what was really happening, this show started to fall apart. It was Agatha all along? What was her all along? What was she doing? Was Vision real? Was he fake? He had the capability to think freely in the Hex, and he could transport his memories to White Vision, but how? He's not the Vision that we knew that died before, so how does he have those exact memories when he said he couldn't remember anything 3 episodes prior? Were the kids real? How did they get their superpowers? How did they age themselves up without Wanda stopping them? How did Wanda place those runes without knowing how to? Why should we care about her relationship with Pietro when they only got half a movie together and he died? Now he's not even Pietro. Why should we root for Wanda when she held hundreds of people prisoner for weeks? Where has S.W.O.R.D. been all this time? Why weren't they around during the 4 or 5 Earth-threatening events in the past movies? And why didn't Doctor Strange show up? Look, I'm not saying he had to for fan service or for a big cameo, but think about it. He is the Sorcerer Supreme. He knows everything there is to know about magic. He can see into the future. He can create portals. In Thor Ragnarok, he knew when Odin, Thor, and Loki were on Earth because he can feel other magical beings. So why didn't he know what was going on in this show? A magical, reality-changing bubble was created a couple 100 miles from where he lives, and he had no idea it was happening? He couldn't feel the tremendous magic being used in the next state over? And if he did feel it, he didn't feel like coming over to check it out? It just doesn't make much sense to me. Yeah, they might explain that he was off doing something else in another dimension or something while this show was taking place. Maybe Wanda messed up other things by creating the Hex that he's having to fix, but we don't know yet. For now, for this show, it didn't make sense that he didn't show up. And now that it's established that Wanda has always been a witch, why didn't Doctor Strange know that before? Why didn't he recognize her powers when they were at the battle in Endgame? If Agnes knows that she's a witch, Doctor Strange would surely see her powers and know it's magic. He's the Sorcerer Supreme, so he definitely knows about the so-called Scarlet Witch as well. Wouldn't he take her in and explain this to her or try to train her before Agnes did? I don't know, just the more I think about it, the more questions I have. I just don't think the magic or the Hex or the characters were handled very well. When the show started to lift the veil, it seemed like it got worse. This show had multiple shocking moments that don't really go anywhere. They were just there to shock. Pietro, Agnes, White Vision, her costume. I don't know, it just didn't all blend together very well for me. And don't give me the BS of, well, your expectations were just too high. No, they weren't. I had reasonable expectations for what they presented to me in the show over 8 episodes, and the finale let me down. I wasn't expecting an endgame level event, but I did expect something interesting to happen. Don't get me wrong, this show is not garbage. It's not necessarily bad. It was just very confusing and disappointing. I think this show did a lot of things right, and there were a lot of elements that I loved. But in hindsight, the ending and the show as a whole is just okay. It has some great elements, it has some garbage elements. It had some wonderful acting and some not great acting. It had some really smart writing and then some really dumb writing. So even with all of those negative things that I mentioned, this show was still better than I thought it was going to be. I had no anticipation for this show before it came out, and I thought it looked pretty stupid, but I was pleasantly surprised for a lot of it. WandaVision Season 1 gets a solid 6 out of 10 pickles from me. Just above average, but not terrible. So there you have it, my thoughts on the first ever Disney Plus MCU show. It's a nice little starting point, but I'm hoping the shows in the future don't let us down like this one did. Maybe this will be like phase 1 of the MCU, where some of the movies were just okay, but they were a nice building block for the great future to come. I want to know what you think about WandaVision in the comments. If you loved it, hated it, or if you're right in the middle like me. I want us to talk about it. Whatever you think, you are free to think it in my comment section. I appreciate you watching all the way to this point in the video, and you know what? I appreciate if you just watched 10 seconds. It doesn't matter. I'm just glad you were here. Stay safe out there, guys, and stay nerdy. And until we meet again, peace out. Hey, if you like this video and you want to see more of my ridiculous content, check out one of these. Maybe you'll enjoy yourself, or maybe you'll watch it and crap your pants. Click one and let's find out.